The Imperium wouldn't know proper food if it bit them on the arse. Do you know what's in our rations? Recycled dead men, pressed and processed and squeezed through pipes and turned into grey, chalky bricks. They call it corpse starch. Back on Necromunda, down in the sump, even the most desperate gangers would turn their noses up at eating a dehydrated corpse. And yet here, in the Guard, they expect my boys, good men who bleed red for the Emperor, to choke it down day after day. I won't have it. I refused from the first moment Commissar Volk assigned me to the mess. "You'll cook what we have," he said, jabbing that long, bony finger at me. The Guard marches on its stomach, and the stomach eats what command serves. But I'm not letting a good man go out to fight and die with that sludge in his belly. You see, back home, I had a trade, a respectable trade, corpse grinder. The gangs would bring us their dead, sometimes their own, sometimes not, it didn't really matter. We'd strip away the flesh, the bits of it that weren't shredded by shrapnel, and render it down, ready to be turned into more of that disgusting starch, most likely. But it was honest work, clean work in its way. Professionals have standards. You couldn't just hack away like some mad butcher. There was an art to it, knowing where to cut, how to separate the meat from the bone, which parts went to what processing vat. The guilders paid well for quality work, and I took pride in that. But there was always a rule. One rule that sat above all others. The flesh is forbidden. It drove you mad. 16 hours a day, knife in hand, working next to meat that's fresh, bloody, and more alive than anything you've eaten in months. But the guild, they take precautions. An iron mask bolted to your neck. You couldn't get it off without the foreman's key, not unless you wanted to fracture your skull and bleed to death. So I could never sate my hunger. But Emperor help me, I thought about it. Oh my, yes. Until the foreman had his accident. Slipped on the wet floor and went right into the grinder, head first. Terrible tragedy. And then I was alone. Just me and the meat. A mountain of it, fresh and warm on the butcher's block. And I could finally eat my fill. Just a little cut at first. Just to whet the appetite. Just to keep the hunger at bay. I sliced the meat again, a bigger piece, promising myself this was the last. I'd savor it this time, appreciating how the taste and texture varied from body to body. But it wasn't enough. It was never, ever enough. And slowly, I lost control. Tearing that flesh with my teeth, great drops of blood dripping down my chin, hacking great chunks from torso and limb. And as I sat there, gorged on the meat and feeling sated for the first time in my life, I felt them. Every soul who I'd saved from the misery of being turned into corpse starch. Those people, whoever they were, became part of me. I carried their souls deep in my belly, their strength flowing into mine. I could never go back to the guild naturally, so I signed up for the Guard. They dragged me up from the depths, stuck a stub gun in my hands, told me I was going to be a soldier. Can you imagine? Me, a man of my age, expected to fight the enemies of mankind. But the Emperor protects, they say, and he protected me in his own way. 3 days into basic training, the mess cook caught a stray during a live fire exercise. Poor sod was looking for a place to put down his soup kettle. Nobody could tell where the shot came from. That's the problem with stub guns, so bloody imprecise. But they needed someone to fill his spot, and I raised my hand, mentioned I'd worked with meat. Just make it edible, the commissar said. At first I tried. I really tried to make something of that miserable starch. But it was like trying to polish a turd. You can make it shine, but it's still shit at the end of the day. My boys deserved better. That's when I realized the Emperor had given me a gift. Because in war, friend, there's never a shortage of meat. The first was a prisoner, much like yourself. Poor lad had lost both his legs to a mine. The Medicae said he wouldn't last the week. Resupply had been overdue by a month. The boys were beginning to starve. Well, waste not, want not, as my old foreman used to say. I bribed the guard and snatched what was left of the body from one of the interrogation rooms. Then I set to work. That night, I made the officers a stew, rich, dark, nourishing. Mad with hunger, they devoured it. Commissar Folk himself said it was the finest meal he'd had since leaving the core worlds. But I suspect that was probably the starvation talking. He took me aside. "And where did you find this delicacy?" he asked. I smiled and told him, "Special cut, sir. Cold storage. Just making use of what the Emperor provides, sir." I winked. We didn't have cold storage. We both knew that. But to my surprise, he laughed. A nervous laugh that gave way to a deep, raucous hysteria. Wiping away his tears, he placed a hand on my shoulder, like old friends sharing a private joke. Resourceful chap. I admire that. "Just keep it coming, Filch. There's a good lad." And from then on, I had free reign of the stockades, so long as I put fresh meat on the table. No more corpse starch, just good, honest, fresh meat. And slowly but surely, my boys got back into fighting shape, carrying the souls of dead men in their bellies. The numbers don't lie, lad. Commissar Folk showed me the reports. Combat effectiveness is up, morale is up. We're fighting harder, recuperating quicker. It's amazing the difference a proper meal will make. Oh, don't cry, lad. You've been very brave. You ought to cheer up. Tonight is going to be something special. The boys are celebrating, you see. It's a festival. A good, honest harvest festival, not like your heretic filth. Commissar Volk has requested something extraordinary for the officers. And you, friend, have one last contribution to make. I've been saving the best till last. It will be a feast. Tonight, they're going to eat like planetary governors. All thanks to you. A coward that tried to sell out these good lads to your dirty, heretic gods. Rather poetic, I'd say. But all is forgiven, lad. I can't speak for the Emperor, but I'd say he might wipe your slate clean for this. Your body will nourish his warriors, and your soul will give them strength for the battles ahead. See, I'm not like those drooling lunatics grinding corpses. I'm doing this for my boys and for the guard. Now then, I'd love to keep chatting, but the festival starts in 12 hours. I've got to get that marinade started. Hold still, lad. This is going to hurt a bit. In a crowded mess hall, the 482nd celebrate their harvest festival. Commissar Volk leads a toast to the fallen. Hungry soldiers feast, and for a moment, there is joy. The Emperor protects. This has been Tales from the Ordo Redactus. If you fancy more Warhammer short stories, be a good chap and hit that like button, would you? Perhaps subscribe while you're at it. Good lad.